What's up guys, welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks, and today we are running Ziatora the Incinerator. Now this deck's pretty simple. It's big dumb dragons with big dumb demons. Who would want anything more? Notably, there is a life gain and life loss strategy. So we're going to gain a lot of life, lose a lot of life, get value off of that life gain / loss, and then create some massive demons and some pretty massive board states while we're at it. Notably guys, this CMC or the mana curve of this deck is really high, but if you look at the ramp in the deck, over 16 ramp cards, we can get there pretty consistently. Additionally, our commander is one of those ramp cards, right? And we're getting an additional 3 treasure tokens per turn. So we're going to cast our commander, and then the next turn after that, we're going to have access to 9 mana. Now that that's out of the way, if you like casting big giant demons and big giant dragons, and you're just a fan of doing a ton of damage, let's get into this deck tech. Alright guys, I'm not going to make you wait, let's get right into the demons and dragons. Razaketh the Foul-Blooded. This guy's super solid, he literally lets you tutor for any card in your library. Vilis, Broker of Blood. This guy's going to draw us a lot of cards, and he can even take out our opponent's creatures. Notably, you'll notice both these and Razaketh cost 8 mana, but remember, if we cast our commander on curve, turn 7, we're going to have access to that 8 mana, so it's not that insane. Especially when you take into account that we're usually going to cast our commander turn 5 or even 4. Cardor Doomscourge. This guy just makes everybody attack each other. Pretty solid card for just incentivizing that violence, getting you protection for a turn, and also he's going to deal additional damage when creatures die during combat. So pretty solid card, pretty annoying to deal with, especially when we can recur this consistently. Orcus Prince of Death, a late game nightmare. He's either going to bring all of your creatures back from the graveyard to the battlefield or completely wipe the board. I've always wanted to play this guy, but he needs to go in a deck that generates a lot of mana. This deck generates a lot of mana. Rakdos, Lord of Riots. We have a ton of bombs, right? And this guy can make it to where we're essentially just casting the color pips to put those bombs onto the battlefield. Remember cards like Razaketh and Vilis? Now they don't seem that insane because we'll just sack the 3 treasure tokens our commander generated, and boom, we get a free demon essentially. Bloodthirster. This guy's literally just in the deck because he makes me smile. Tavash, Gloom Summoner, not a demon, but creates those massive demons, right? Keep track of how much life we're able to gain with this deck, and you'll really see this guy's potential to slap a massive demon just onto the battlefield. Lastly, we have Mortarion. This guy synergizes really well with the deck because we've already gone over a few ways to pay life for value, and there's a lot more in the deck. Additionally, if you're insane, which I've been accused of before, we can activate our commander, deal damage to ourselves. That way we can activate Mortarion for a lot and get a huge board state out of nowhere. Let's kick it off with the dragons. We have Kakusho the Evening Star. This guy's going to enter the battlefield. We're going to gain 15 and each of our opponents are going to lose 5. Pretty solid for the strategy. Remember, we can just drop a 15/15 demon onto the battlefield with that Tavash guy now. Corvold, Faker's King. We're creating a lot of treasure tokens. This guy has to make an appearance just for the pure value. Old Nabo, not only is he a massive dragon, he's going to create more of those treasure tokens. Terror of the Peaks, we're creating massive and casting massive creatures. So it'd be pretty awesome if they deal damage whenever they enter the battlefield, right? There we go. Dragon Mage. I just like this guy because he's a solid dragon. He's going to fill our graveyard while drawing us a lot of cards. Beladros Witherbloom hits the nail on the head, right? We can gain life with those little pests, we can untap all of our land, which we're going to need mana, and we can pay 10 life, which is going to fit in right with the strategy. Godrak, the Crown Scourge. We're basically removing our opponent's creatures every turn with our commander. Additionally, some of our creatures die in the process, so he's good for at least 2 treasure tokens a turn, and that's on his low end. Moving on, let's talk about our life gain. We have Verdant Sun's Avatar. Again, we're casting massive creatures, so now we're gaining a lot of life whenever those creatures enter the battlefield. Mask of Grizzlebrand, a super solid card in the deck because, hear me out, we equip this to a massive creature, then our commander sacrifices that massive creature to deal damage. Now we're going to get the 3 treasure tokens to equip this to a new creature and draw more cards. Pretty solid, and we're gaining life while we do that. Vito, Thorn of Duskrose. This guy has a really cool interaction with our commander, right? Because we can pay that 5 mana to give all of our creatures lifelink, and then whenever we gain life, target opponent loses that much life. So, say we have a 10/10 on the battlefield, we attack with that 10/10, it's got lifelink, we get 10 damage to point at our opponent. Boom, we pointed at the same opponent that took the 10 damage. He's now taken 20 damage this turn. Well, now we sacrifice that 10/10 and deal another 10 damage to him because of our commander. And since our commander did 10 damage, we're going to point another 10 damage at that opponent. So we can do 40 damage with this guy, giving it Kind of an insane synergy with our commander. Blossoming Bog Beast. This guy's pretty insane. Not only is he going to be consistent life gain, but if we have a different way to gain a ton of life, he's just going to buff our creatures to the moon. Noxious Gearhulk. Not only is this guy solid removal, but he's a solid life gain synergy as well. Basilisk Collar and Luxodon Warhammer are going to just give one of our creatures lifelink along with Witch's Clinic. Now our commander has lifelink, which is pretty broken in this deck specifically. Worm Coil Engine. I really like this guy because he's a solid sack outlet for our commander. That way we can get those 2 creature tokens that we can then sacrifice later, and one of those creature tokens has lifelink on top of Worm Coil Engine itself just having lifelink. Disciple of Bolas. Sacrifice one of those massive creatures, gain a lot of life, and draw a lot of cards. Moving on, let's talk about the recursion in the deck. We have Ruthless Technomancer. Super solid, we're staying on that theme of treasure tokens, and we can even use the treasure tokens we create with the rest of the deck to recur creatures. So this guy's super solid on his own, but he's even better in this deck. Marin of Clan Neltoth. I love this girl. We can get her up there pretty fast, and additionally, just getting your best creature back to your hand every turn is still good enough to include her in the deck. Cavalier of Thorns. I love the Cavalier cycle in this deck just because they have the dive triggers and the enter the battlefield triggers, so they're super solid. This one's going to go ahead and mill you some cards, but he's going to end up putting a land into the battlefield, which is really solid. Additionally, whenever he does die, we get to bring whatever we didn't want to mill back to our hand, so really good there. Chainer Nightmare Adept. Super solid because all of our reanimated creatures are going to have haste. Additionally, she can reanimate creatures. Conduit of Worlds. This one's super solid. It's going to let us play our lands from our graveyard, so any sack lands we can just, play per turn. Additionally, if we lose a key piece, this can get it back for us. Eternal Witness. Super solid. Shove it in any green deck. Felden of the Third Path, really good for your Kakushos and Wormcoil Engines. That way we're just bringing them to the battlefield, sacrificing them, and then we can just rinse and repeat. That makes our commander really happy. Let's get into the supporting cards of the deck. We have Sepindro Hunger Dominus. I really like this guy because not only is he going to double the power of our creatures until end of turn, basically ramping up our commander's damage, he's also just going to, double the power of our creatures every turn. Anger, really solid because half the time, sometimes Anger can get stuck in your hand and there's no way to get him to the graveyard. But our commander can solve that because we'll just sack Anger, he'll end up in the graveyard, we got haste. Swiftfoot Boots and Lightning Greaves, we want to protect our big creatures. We're spending a lot of mana on them and we really don't want them to die. Zorn, this guy's gonna double up on all of our treasure token generation, and it's way cheaper than doubling season, so hell yeah. Old One Eye can be a super solid target to just sack and bring back to the graveyard every turn. One of those cards that just makes sure we're consistently triggering our commander. Additionally, he can just give your creatures trample, which is useful. He's also gonna be super solid for triggering our ETBs such as Terror of the Peaks and Verdant Sun's Avatar. He's a super solid sack outlet to any of our greater goods, our Ruthless Technomancers, Disciple of Bolas's. He's just a solid card in the deck. Sproutback Trudge. This guy's a better card in the deck because he's going to lower the cost of his CMC judging on how much life we gain. So we're only ever going to really cast this guy for 2 green, and we can do that consistently, just dealing 9 damage to our opponents. Additionally, all the other good sack options are still good with this guy as well. Ghoulcaller Gisa can create a massive board state by sacrificing those massive creatures we're going to be casting. Bloodghast is just in here so we can really consistently get our commander trigger off. Even though he's not massive, it is still worth trying to really consistently get those 3 treasure tokens. Fauna Shaman, a really good card that just lets you tutor for any creature card you need as long as you have something to discard from your hand. Let's move on to the card advantage. We have Greven Praetor Captain. This guy's super solid and fits in with the theme, right? He's gonna be massive, we're gonna sacrifice massive creatures to make him massive, and we're gonna draw a lot of cards. Dark Deal, Cavalier of Flames, and Wheel of Misfortune. Just solid wheel effects that are going to go ahead and get us through our library faster. As an added benefit, Cavalier of Flames can give all of our creatures haste and ding them for damage whenever it dies, and our Wheel of Misfortune will allow us to pay a lot of life so we can get some insane Mortarion triggers. Greater Good, again, just sacrifice a massive creature to draw a lot of cards. Yes, you'll have to discard, but you won't care. Toski and Orin Frostfang. We are playing primarily creatures and we're attacking with those creatures, so it's just gonna be a solid option to draw those cards. Plus we get Death Touch from our Orin Frostfang. Faithless Looting, a super solid card early. It's going to smooth out your land drops and dig you into some ramp. Speaking of ramp, we have the Reaver Cleaver, another super solid treasured token generator that we just equipped to our biggest, baddest creature. Mahadi Emporium Master, again, we're sacrificing a lot of creatures, we're killing a lot of creatures, we're going to get a lot of treasure tokens off this guy. We have the super low CMC green ramp package with Nature's Lore, 3 Visits, and Farseek, and then we play all 4 signets because, again, we want to be ramping on those turn 2s. That way our deck doesn't just, slug out for 5 turns and then start doing something. Lastly, guys, we have our removal. Chatterfang. This guy's super solid because we're going to go ahead and just create those little squirrel creature tokens whenever we create those treasure tokens, and then we can sacrifice those creature tokens to just buff our creatures or kill our opponent's creatures. Additionally, if you want to take this deck a little bit to the next level, you can include Pitiless Plunderer, and he will go infinite with that card. Grim Hireling, another one where we can sacrifice our treasure tokens to kill creatures and also generate treasure tokens. You see why I'm saying there's a ton of ramp in this deck? Cavalier of Night, not only will this take out another creature, it's also going to let you bring back your stuffs like Fauna Shaman back to the battlefield. Shatterskull Smashing and Hagra Mauling are going to be super solid MDFCs that we run in the deck that can also take out creatures. We also run Beast Within, that way we can take out a permanent. Alright guys, that's going to do it for the deck tech. I had a lot of fun making it. Let me know in the comment section what you think about it, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me out. You guys have been amazing with the support, as always. I hope this helped you in your deck building endeavors, and I will see you in the next one.